I've been keeping a secret from you guys, a secret that I am very excited to share with you right now about what's in this box. Good morning from the Goodwood Festival of Speed. We're here at the Ford stand beside the Ford Mustang GTD, which we are about to be taking a proper look around. But before we do, I need to explain this. A box that's fairly nondescript. Black box, Mustang logo on the front, but I've actually had this for around a year now, and it's what's inside that is really special. Let me open this to show you what we've got. Firstly, a note. Born on the track, bred for the street, the countdown is on, see you in Las Vegas, because this was delivered to people before that car had even been introduced. What's below that note though, come and take a look at this, is a titanium poker chip. This is made from recycled titanium, the Mustang logo on one side, a number on the other side, but it's what this represents. Not only was this the invitation to go to the launch event of the GTD, but this was the invitation for an allocation to purchase a Mustang GTD. I am incredibly excited to announce that one of these is going to be joining the Shmeemobiles. Today, we're going to take a full look around the new Carbon Series version of the GTD. Then we'll head down to the Supercar Paddock to hear the car that's down there and running on the Hillclimb. Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello, and welcome back to the channel where I'm very excited because today it's a Mustang GTD that's joining the garage. I mean, look at it in the sunshine. We're going to go through all of this in a moment, but you guys know how much I like my Fords. In the garage, we have the Ford GT, we have the Shelby GT500 with a lot of similarities to this. We're going to go through the Ford Focus RS Heritage Edition. We also have the Mustang Dark Horse that I keep out in the US, which is of course the 7th gen Mustang, but with a big difference to what we're looking at here. And we have the MSRT Transit Custom, our team van. Plus, there might be more interesting things to discuss down the line. But of course, as a Ford guy, this was immediately something that when I knew it was coming, and I heard whispers in the build up to the car being introduced, the work being done on it by Multimatic, as in some ways a follow-on to the Ford GT. Well, it's not an out-and-out supercar in the mid-engine variety. It is, of course, the next limited series production car to homologate a race car. And you just look at this thing, and there's so much to it that we need to go through. It is absolutely bonkers. And I want to take you inside and show you a bit more around the car, talk about what goes into the special version we have here, the Carbon Series, but also with the performance package and the upgrades and options that you get on it. So let's take a look around. Just look at this thing. It is an absolute beast and no ordinary Mustang. The GTD in the name is a bit of a red herring. You might be thinking Golf and therefore a diesel, but no, there is a stonking V8 up front, and just look at it. This is the Carbon Series car, which was introduced a matter of weeks ago at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in France, and I'd been hoping to track it down, and here it is, center stage at Ford's stand at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, where they've also introduced the brand new Capri, which we might go and take a look at as well a little bit later on. But this is the Carbon Series, and there is so much to talk about. A quick recap of the GTD itself, named after the class at the 24 Hours of Daytona, the racing series, of course the homologation special edition that customers can purchase to allow the car to race, to take part. In many ways the follow-on to the Ford GT, to the car that has been legendary over the last 10 years. And this thing is just mad. I mean, look at the wing that you have back here. These incredibly wide arches, both front and rear. In fact, the louvres that you have up over here as well. This being the Carbon Series, we'll touch on some of those options and what's involved in the performance package and what we know about it so far. But I've got to mention this paint color, Chroma Flare as it's called, this metallic paintwork that looks stunning in this morning sunshine. We also have the carbon stripes. So in addition, let's start from the very front. We have these twin stripes that run all over it, like the Ford GT, the Carbon Series, the special version, almost the full width that run up over the hood, the bonnet for us over here. We've got the push buttons to pop it open, we've got the painted stripe up through the middle, and of course it begins from the very nose at the front of the bumper. Those continue up over the roof, almost again the full width, to where they come here over what they call the tech deck. So it's not a normal boot or trunk. It doesn't open in the normal way. It is the tech deck that sits beneath this wing up above it. In fact, you have the buttons here to release it, some intakes. If you want to store stuff in the car, that's going to be in the back seats. Now what you get with the performance pack starts back here with this rear wing. The DRS, drag reduction system, this upper level can go flat to reduce drag at higher speeds and just look immense. immense. If we come back towards the front as well, you've got these dive planes that wrap around and the extended lower front splitter. I think the performance pack is going to be an absolute must, because one other thing it takes away is some of the internal sound deadening, which means even more noise from this. The Predator's 5.2 litre supercharged V8 that makes 800 horsepower in a car that is a whole lot of mean, badass, angry stuff. In fact, it's very different from the 7th gen Mustang, namely it's a transaxle. The dual clutch gearbox is at the back for better weight distribution, and obviously performance as you're going to have it out on the track. The GTD badging back here, carbon fiber logo that sits at the rear, of course, based on the new Mustang, the 7th gen, when it comes to tail lights. I mean, look at that exhaust tailpipe down there, the Akrapovic system. But this thing is menacing. This thing is totally wild. It's angry, it's huge, it's just a mean looking thing. And there's a lot more we need to talk about. For example, what you can see inside when it comes to the onboard suspension and the view that you have back towards that. Moving inside, there is a lot to show you, of course, based on something I'm very familiar with, the Dark Horse, the 7th gen Mustang, but some notable differences: the rotary selector for the 7-speed dual clutch, the shift paddles on the steering wheel, some new seats as well in terms of the design. But I actually want to beeline to something you might have heard about, and that's what you see back here. Look at that, the stunning exposed suspension. What Multimatic have done here with that window and the carbon fiber surround to allow you to see what the suspension is doing behind you is utterly fabulous. That is a work of art. And the view through the back window towards the wing, this is of course your luggage space. It's a strict 2-seater, but I never thought there would be something that special and unique about the back of this car. Let me fold the seats back though. We've got the sports seats that I'm familiar with from the other Mustangs, but finished with a new style, new design, new inlays, bespoke finish for the GTD. Of course, as I mentioned, the dual clutch controller in the center, familiar from the likes of the Ford GT and also the GT500 as well. But the way that they've created that and the exact finish is stunning, and matches also with the shift paddles that you can see on the back of the steering wheel. I'm actually going to take a little seat inside here to show you what it's like. This is my first ever time in the GTD. Oh, look at this thing. And also, I spot the difference here as well, the red buttons to select your different modes. This will be to go up and down between the various settings. You also have access to the suspension here, so you can change the adaptive setup of the suspension, and the exhaust button as well, plus your other media controls. Look at these shift paddles on the back. I love this design. The way they've created those is absolutely amazing. Now, foot on the brake, because we're allowed to press the magic button down here and start this up. Oh yes, the GTD. This sounds absolutely awesome. Of course, a familiar sound from the GT500, the Predator V8, but really, really cool. I'm in the GTD and I'm excited beyond belief. When this arrives, we're gonna have so much fun with it. Oh, just insane. Look at that. Look at that view behind me. Look at that, through to the suspension. What a thing. What a thing. Right, best switch this off for the moment. Of course, there's going to be a lot to go through in terms of the screens, the settings. You get these lovely animations as you do in the Dark Horse, but now, of course, with the GTD, oh yes, right. Let me step out. I am excited right now. I cannot wait for this thing in the not too distant future. We've got to come round and take a look, hey? Press the pushers right here to pop open the front, like on the GT500. Then we are greeted by our Predator V8. As I said, 800 horsepower in a Mustang from factory, the massive supercharger that's bolted on the top of it to give you all of that power, and the exposed carbon fiber. You can see on the underside of the bonnet here, this is of course all lightweight materials, all going to help keep the weight reduced from this thing. So Mustangs, of course, aren't famed for being the lightest cars in the world, but this is to really change that and to really introduce a new era for it and what it represents. And that looks very, very nice. You always have to give this quite the slam to make sure that it's closed down correctly and in place. Let's talk about wheels and tires for a moment as well. The magnetite wheel, the magnesium wheel, is of course the upgrade for the car, even lighter, and it is shod in Cup 2R tires. 325 at the front, enormous front tires, and come towards the back, 345 back here. There are a couple of options for the brake calipers, red, blue and black, and of course there'll be lots of different options when it comes to speccing the car, wheel colours, body paint colours, carbon series or not, some interior options options, I'm sure. Although the Ford GT always had very few things relative to the likes of Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, etc. in terms of the specification that you could choose. So I'm interested to see what happens with this. Of course, the carbon, not carbon for the dive planes, but perhaps that will be an option as well, and even maybe the louvres. We'll have to see what happens with those. But just look at all of the intakes, all of these different areas for airflow, all of the cooling, all of the details, the design. I've always loved on the 7th gen this cut that you have into the rear deck and the way that's presented. Obviously you've got the camera back here for reversing as well, compulsory for the regulations in the United States especially. And I do like what they've done with the number plate positioning there with the carbon fiber horse prancing away in the very center of it. The pony car, of course, the Mustang, and then the diffuser. Just absolutely mad and mean. This is one exciting car. There is no question about that. Then over here in the supercar paddock, getting a whole lot of attention, is this blue GTD. This is actually wrapped. I think it's the car that was running at the Nürburgring, so it's got the winged bucket seats and full cage in it. But of course, an opportunity as well to just see how it looks in a different style, a different design, different color wheels, this anthracite dark gray, still with the red calipers, of course, on this as well. This is the one that is attacking the hill climb. So we can see it in anger, we can see it in motion, see it on the move. Of course, fully kitted out. Obviously prototype cars at this stage. They're very much doing testing, learning what they need to be all about and what's going to be needed. But to see them over in Europe is really cool. Obviously Multimatic doing the development and the production of them, as they did with the Ford GT. So they have a base here in the United Kingdom and have often appeared with future models, whether that's the Dark Horse or the Ford GT back at the time before they've entered full production. And at this stage, technically, we don't actually know if they're going to be available in the UK to begin with. There's no official word on that, which region is going to have them. But number 626 for the Hillclimb Run is of course this, which they're calling Lightning Blue. I imagine that will be a colour very similar to this wrap. As I say, this is just a vinyl wrap on it, you can tell that, which I think they did just before the event to get it ready for presentation in very much a Ford blue to suit it. 60 years of the Mustang this year, in fact, 1964 to 2004, and some equipment and gear going on there. You can see through the windows, the full cage and everything. In fact, that view, when you look over the rear deck and look down into it, is really quite something as well. And obviously this has actually, I think, an additional gurney flap running along the back, or a slightly different change, slightly different design on the rear wing from what we saw of the other car out at the main show stand. Let us have a listen to this. Cold start coming right up. Oh goodness me, that sounds good from outside. That is a proper grumble. Exactly what we like. Listen to that. I got a little love for this. They'll warm it up ready for the run. Obviously you've got the different driving modes. Oh, the animations even show obviously the different modes to match. Oh, the suspension, that was cool. First time I've seen that. The suspension adjusting was amazing. That's really cool to see. It's obviously changing the different driving modes with the adaptive suspension system. Lowers it back down. Oh, that's really cool, like on the Ford GT. Now look at the crowd that's appeared here. A lot of people coming to check out the GTD. That's a cool sound check. Look at that. GTD arrives up at the top, in fact, in this sea of unbelievable cars. And come round because I think it's going to squeeze in right here. The blue looks really nice. Look at the yellow lights on it as well. It's going to squeeze down this side. Obviously running at the lower suspension height. Those tyres are right up in the arches, aren't they? Something really cool about that. One of the first cars to offer that was the McLaren P1. Back when it had its race mode and lowered suspension and dropped down like that. But this is very cool. Very, very cool. It's always worth a very quick look around here as the GMA S course, deafens us all coming through. At the front, the Avaya and the McLaren Solus GT. Then we've got the Ferrari SP8, we've got the Pagani Huayra R, Aston Martin Valor, we've got the Roma Spider 296 GTS, SF90XX, Competizione Aperta, Daytona SP3, New V8 Vantage, Utopia, FXXK Evo. If we come squeezing through, we've got the Aston Martin Valiant, then we've got Victor, DB12, we've got Singers, Porsches, McLarens, you name it, just about everything is up here. The 499P Modificata, beyond that the Roma, the Aston Martin Valkyrie, the Senna P1, the Young Wang U9, obviously the GTD past the 750S, the Zagato and La Squadra Twin Tail, MC20s, 918 Spider Starato, Lambos, P1, we've got the Lanzante cars, P1 HTK LM25, the 935, Bugatti Mistral and Bolida over there, T33, the Koenigsegg's up this way, we've got the CC850, we've got to come through just because the Bolide kind of Welto in front of it, the McMurtry over there as well, the Zinger 21C, Tag Turbo back there, oh, we've got the startup sounds, everything kind of happening at once, working out where I can squeeze myself through, T33 Mule, CC850, Jesko Absolute and Jesko Attack, we've got the T50 here as well, the Niki Lauda. As the lineups go, DLS Turbo Study, I guess I better make my way back over here because I think we're going to be going down the hill in a second, and I need to make sure we're in the right place, right, to check this out a little bit later on. Lovely burbles, right, good stuff, let's go. Something else that I would like to show you on this is the underbody Aero. If you have a look under here, I'm not sure how much you can see, but it's kind of like the Ford GT in that there's a bit of a teardrop cabin to it. Of course, lots of carbon fibre for the under trays, but you can tell this is made by a race team because of the way this is all set up down there. I hope it's focused and clear enough to see, which is really quite interesting. In fact, if I come around towards the side, I wonder if we can be nosy and see any more of the underbody Aero under here. Quite hard to get far enough under, obviously very low to the ground when you have it at the normal ride height. Like the GT, one thing I'll point out is that when you turn it off, it lifts the suspension and comes back to the regular ride height as opposed to sitting right down, which is because it locks itself down using hydraulics from the motor. So if you don't have the engine running, obviously the hydraulics have to soften up and they can't hold it locked down onto that other suspension system. But it was really interesting to see how that actually worked, how it basically did the same type of thing that we see on the Ford GT, in fact. We're getting a bit of a demonstration of this now, so you can see the suspension. This is in its normal height. That is the lift mode. So when it's in normal, you can raise it, protect your front splitter, and as you can see, you can do this while it's engine off, or you can lower it down into track mode, where of course it then sits the car right down to the ground. And it all happens really quite quickly and quite easily. There's some very clever suspension systems going on here. Then in addition to that, of course, you have DRS on the wing, so we can see the upper element of the rear wing and simulate how that works, obviously opening up to help airflow passing through, or it closes back down, obviously to give you more downforce in the corners. And at the same time as it's doing that at the rear, there's actually a front element under here. Let me see if I can get the camera down to show you this. But there's some front aero here that actually does the exact same thing. As the rear opens up, these flaps are also pivoting to help manage the airflow coming in and through the car. So there's a whole lot going on in terms of clever aero work, clever suspension work, and clever stuff happening with the GTD, which is really cool to see. And obviously sitting down like that, or now back to normal mode, looking really, really quite monstrous. We are back over here, and this is the new Ford Capri. Of course, Capri is a name that means a lot to many. It is now a very different car. New generation Capri is a fully electric SUV crossover, effectively. 335 horsepower, four-wheel drive, plenty of luggage space, practicality, comfort. Of course, a very, very different thing to, well, what it meant to many people. But the idea is that this is the new generation, right? This is the new car. This is a striking looking color, obviously well equipped, nicely presented. It's about £42,000 or so, the entry price point. And the design, if you take it as its own thing, is actually really quite nice in terms of how it looks. You know, the bar across the front, the shape, the styling. It's based on the Volkswagen platform, so a lot of platform sharing in terms of development, chassis, powertrain, batteries, motors, etc. But obviously wearing Ford's specific design. The Capri badge reborn, and I'm sure lots of people had different opinions about this. the legend is back. Is it the same legend? Is it a different car? Does it have the name that it should? Should it have a completely different name? But the idea is that, you know, people for whom the original Capri would have been a significant standout, it's a different car for a different segment. It's a different type of buyer. It's a different type of thing. So it's definitely been generating a lot of talking points and conversation out here at Goodwood in a very, very big way. And now there is a whole lot more sun out on this as well, so you can see the color in a completely different light. And I've got to say, the chroma flare of this is gorgeous. There will, of course, be the option to choose just about anything when it comes to specifications for colors. Ton more to think about that, whether it has stripes, carbon series, or whether it's just a single body color. And of course, there'll be some interior options and that kind of stuff. So lots of different choices, lots of different things to think about. And that's going to be fun, because if it's anything like what they did with the GT, I'm looking forward to that process an awful lot and finding something that will really, really suit it. Something that will look very, very nice against this. And I tell you what, just walking around, I noticed a moment ago, one of the coolest things is when you just stand next to the car and you look through and you can see that exposed suspension system. Those dampers are very, very clever, as we've been learning today. So is the Aero, so is everything about it. I love that they've basically taken the Mustang race car, the GT3, and made it road legal, made a production road car that can be registered. Obviously, we don't know if this will be a UK car. Obviously, that's something to just mention quickly, that mine will be a US car. I plan to keep it out in the United States, but this looks awesome in this lighting. Very, very cool thing, and the highlight probably for me to be able to spend so much time around it here at Goodwood. I'm going to come and point the camera at this for a moment. The Supervan 4.2 now. This has been through a few different iterations of Ford basically making ludicrously fast, ridiculous vans. I mean, look at this. Look at the wing and look at the Aero on that. That makes our MSRT Transit Custom, which is a pretty cool car, look fairly, I'm going to say ordinary, different objective. I mean, look at this. This thing literally goes to Pikes Peak and to racetracks, and they basically prove a point that you can make a van really, really, really quite quick. I guess a Capri on steroids in some ways. Very, very, very mad machine. Look at that. The carbon tub reinforcement that this thing has. Absolutely insane. Well, I find myself climbing in. So here we are, stepping in to the Supervan and sliding in. The seat normally occupied by Romain Dumas. I'm a little bit smaller, but here we are. Look at this. Look at this with the cage around. It's kind of cool. What a view. I mean, it's a doubly cool view just because of all the insane race cars that are going past us. But yeah, that's not ordinary. Full, I mean, I'm not going to touch anything because I don't want to break anything. But yeah, that's what Ford can do. Ford in motorsport, hey? It's all of this that leads to the road cars that I love so much. This basically brings us back up to our camp. We've been getting around with the pink MSRT Transit Custom and a bit with the Puro Sangue, which I've got to say looks kind of cool when it's a bit muddy and dirty. But basically, we've got all of the RVs, thanks to Eddie's RV hire, and to get around site, some golf buggies as well. Most of this show has been in and out with golf buggies. It's the quickest and it's the easiest. But the fun thing is to have finally shown you this. Some people worked this out. Some people had clocked that when I did film the GTD at Monterey Car Week, I referenced that I had already seen it before, and the only way that was possible was if I had had one of these to go to the launch. And a couple of people, like 3 or 4 people, worked out that that must be the case, and therefore one was going to be joining the Shmeemobiles. So props to you guys, because that was a lot of thinking, adding it together, working it out. But here we are, and I think I can say as well that the chip, which in the case of mine is 141, is not like your production number or order or anything like that. It's kind of randomized. It was your invitation number, 141, but nonetheless, very cool, very fun, and I very much appreciate having that kind of memorabilia to build the story. That's where it began. That is where the Mustang GTD as a Shmeemobile began out in the United States. But I think for now, that's going to bring it to an end. I hope you're as excited as I am for the growth of the collection in very much a Ford versus Ferrari kind of way here. We've announced 2 new Shmeemobiles at this show, Dodici Cilindri from Ferrari and the Mustang GTD. 2 very different Grand Touring sports cars, one much more track focused than the other, but two very, very cool cars, which with the specs I've got in mind are going to be really quite nice as well. For now though, I'd like to say a big thanks to everybody from Ford UK, from Multimatic, for helping with all of the behind the scenes and being able to share a little bit more with you about the GTD. But let's wrap this one up for there. So thank you very much for all of your support. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. It has been an extraordinary Goodwood Festival of Speed, but that brings us to a close for this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.